In the spring of 1878, fear would grip the residents living along the Susquehanna River in Columbia and Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. On the afternoon of Sunday, April 28, 1878, Mr. Doder was rowing a boat with friends on the Susquehanna River just off the shores of Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. Mr. Doder was the head carpenter of the Reading and Columbia Railroad. It was an overcast day and the spring mist was still clearing over the water when one of the men yelled and pointed to something strange emerging from the surface of the river. The April 29, 1878 Lancaster Intelligencer published a detailed article about the incident. Mr. Doder told the reporter, "When we first saw it, it was standing up in the water and was at least 7 feet or more in length. It had a head like a dog and its neck was about a foot long and not very thick. Its body in the thickest part was over a foot in diameter. It had small eyes and on each side of the head was something like a fan with claws or fins." Mr. Doder stated it was a frightful looking object and 5 times it rose to the surface and stood up with 2 feet out of the water. The men stated that they then raced their boat to the Wrightsville shore as fast as they could with several other boats in that area in pursuit. The article continues. Several of the Columbia boys went out onto the river to look for the creature. "What is it?" is the question asked everywhere here. Some think it's an otter, others a seal, and still others hold the idea that it is a sea lion. The next day, April 30th, 1878, the York Dispatch published an article indicating Harrisburg was recently excited over a live alligator in the Susquehanna, which proved to be a hellbender or water dog. Columbia is now in ecstasies over the discovery of an animal reported to be a real live sea lion. The military companies of Wrightsville and Columbia should be called to arms at once and repel the invader of the sacred waters of the Columbia Dam. This same day, the Harrisburg Telegraph reported, "There's a sea lion in the Susquehanna down at Columbia, and a cold wave of fear has struck the Columbians, lest the animal should frighten away the shad and half the revenue of the town be lost." Over the next couple of days, during the first week in May, residents along the river would keep a close watch on the waters. News reports died off on Wednesday and Thursday, leaving one to think that the excitement of the creature might have faded into history. But for the locals, this story was far from over. That Friday, May 3rd, the York Daily reported, "News of the presence of a sea lion and other hideous things spread faster than the Chicago fire." Some 8 to 10 boatloads of Columbians and Wrightsville folks went out to search for the creature. The mayor of the city ordered out an extra police force to quell the excitement. Word of this creature spread to all of the towns along the Susquehanna River Valley, and newspapers as far north as Sunbury carried the story, hoping that this creature was not moving up the river to them. The May 3rd, 1878 Sunbury Gazette reported an earlier sighting closer to Wrightsville. The article indicated, "The animal was first seen last Friday on the York County side by Dr. William Sutton, who fired the contents of a gun at him just as he left the raft where he had been basking in the sunshine. He was seen on Saturday and yesterday at different times by a large number of persons, and this morning he was seen near Columbia by Mr. James Mifflin." A week later, on May 13th, 1878, a York Dispatch article asked, "Are you going to Columbia? Train will leave York at 6 p.m. This will give Yorkers a chance to see that wonderful sea lion in the Columbia Dam." A May 17th York Dispatch article reported last evening at 6 o'clock an excursion train left York for Columbia containing about 250 persons to attend a concert given by the Opera House of the Trinity Church Choir. One of the encores made a good local hit in regard to the Susquehanna half bushel, also known as the Columbia Dam, with this monstrous sea lion, which brought down the house. The rhyme was as follows: "'Tis a prolific half bushel as ever you'll find. It holds bass, shad, and a monstrous sea lion." Sightings of this mysterious creature seemed to cease after those first couple weeks in the spring of 1878. The attention of the people living in the Susquehanna River Valley shifted to thoughts of their fortunate isolation from the growing yellow fever epidemic that would take the lives of over 13,000 people in the Mississippi Valley that year. On April 26th, the day of the first sighting of the creature, President Hayes would sign the Quarantine Act of 1878, shifting quarantine powers from the state to the federal government. On June 29th, 1878, the York Dispatch published an article titled "Large Sturgeon Caught." The article reported the fish was about 8 feet in length, between 3 to 4 feet in circumference, and weighed 140 pounds. Caught in the waters by Columbia, perhaps this is the great sea lion so many people have seen, which created so much talk several months ago. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see video versions of this podcast, check out my YouTube channel, Running Into History, and stay tuned for more forgotten stories from our past.